Welcome to the Confident Athlete Podcast, a comprehensive guide to building champions head first. I'm your host, Callum McKinnon, a former athlete and owner of Rise Above Adversity Mental Performance Coaching. In today's episode, we're going to dive into a topic that athletes and the general society have to deal with at some level these days, and that is navigating the impact of social media. We're going to look at the influence of social media in sports, both positive and negative, the comparison trap, and effective strategies for navigating social media as an athlete. And as always, we'll give you some key takeaways and techniques that you can implement into your life today to create awareness and manage social media in a healthy and sustainable way. According to the latest statistics of Smart Insights, in 2024, 62.3% of the world's population uses social media. We're talking 5.07 billion people with around 260 new users coming on within the last year. With the average daily social media screen time around 2 hours and 20 minutes, it is a phenomenon that has changed the way that we communicate, advertise, and consume information. Now, there is a number of reasons that over half the world's population interacts on social media, with benefits of connecting with others worldwide at the touch of our fingertips. Well, it's faster and easier communication. It's a major pathway to gaining information quickly. Most people use it for its entertainment purposes. It's a major gateway to gaining greater exposure. And then we have the ability to build a personal brand. Through the power of social media, many athletes of all ages and levels are building a brand to promote themselves both nationally and internationally. With some of the most influential athletes of all time on these platforms, it's understandable that anyone would build their brand or promote themselves for billions of eyes to see. With football star Cristiano Ronaldo leading the way as the most followed person on social media, with around 917 million followers spread all over many different social media platforms. Coming in second is Argentinian footballer Leo Messi, then Indian cricketer Virat Kohli, Brazilian football star Neymar, and at fifth, NBA basketball player LeBron James. From a business standpoint, it is not hard to see how promoting these athletes equals ticket sales, more event sales, and more merchandise sales. The more eyes on the prize, the greater the opportunity to make money for some of the biggest sporting franchises in the world. In doing so, it can and has created a bit of a gray area when it comes to the ethics and the essence of what sport is really about. Then there's the other side of social media, the invasion of privacy, the reputational risk, the cyberbullying, the social media addiction, and social media comparison, or you might know it as the comparison trap. Now, pre-social media, the average human had 10 to 20 closer relationships with others, with around 150 wider social relationships or acquaintances. This is basically people that you know of and are friendly with, but don't open up to like you might with close friends and family. In the social media era, however, the close relationships remain similar with around 10 to 20 people that you speak to more regularly, but the average number of wider relationships have increased to 338, according to data. Now, with more connections, we also have more judgment. Even today's junior athletes have to deal with a whole lot more criticism than we ever had to growing up. And considering that the elite levels of sport really starts to take flight around the early teenage years, the same time that kids are really trying to find their place in this world, trying to find their identity, it is not uncommon to seek that external validation. In fact, from a biological standpoint, it's natural to compare ourselves to others. It's a major part of our ego trying to define and understand ourselves. The natural impulse to make comparisons can be traced back to our evolutionary need for self protection. Comparison was used to measure how we stacked up against others in a tribal setting back in the caveman days as a form of survival. Now, most of the time, our comparisons are made at a split second and we don't even realize it. Our mind is constantly taking in the information around us in order to keep us psychologically and physically safe. Now, one study found that 12% of young people's thoughts were comparative in nature. In doing so, we can fall into that comparison trap. Now, the comparison trap is this vicious cycle in which people frequently compare themselves to others, leading to feelings of low self esteem, loneliness, and basically more comparisons. Now, Theodore Roosevelt called comparison the thief of joy. He may have well been right. With a 24/7 access view of the best parts of everyone's lives through the lens of social media and an innate natural drive to compare appearances, abilities, accomplishments, and opportunities, it inevitably takes a toll on our mental health and how we generally feel about ourselves. Now, study after study has shown that people feel worse about themselves after spending time scrolling through social media. There are higher rates of anxiety and depression these days than ever before. Now, I'm not saying that you have to stop using social media. I'm just giving you this information so that you can become more self aware of how you use social media. This innate drive to compare isn't all bad though. When we compare ourselves to others as a way of measuring our growth or how far we've come or to motivate us to improve, we can develop a more positive self image. A major part of how we react to comparison really depends on who we compare ourselves to. Now, when we want to feel better about ourselves, we tend to compare ourselves to people worse off than we are, although this too can become an unhealthy habit. When we want to improve, on the other hand, we are more likely to compare ourselves to people that are roughly similar to us, but are higher achieving in one trait or another. Now, the problem with comparison is that we make the error of comparing ourselves to the ideals of certain traits. For example, many people believe that they have a less active social life than others, but when they make this comparison, they tend to compare themselves to only the most social people that they know. Our social media feeds are flooded with things that we're interested in. That's the way the algorithm works. And it's also why you keep coming back to it. For many, it can be an addiction. So, how do we manage social media and the effects of social comparison? Well, here are 6 ways in which you can do so. So, the first one, and I know you've probably heard this a million times before, and that is practicing gratitude. Now, this is the number one tool I would recommend to anyone going through any type of mental challenges at all. But you don't even have to be going through challenges to reap the benefits of consistently practicing gratitude. I think that we can all agree that our beliefs influence how we think, how we feel, and what we do. Our reality is a perception of our beliefs. Have you ever heard someone say, "Hey, did you see that?" And you completely missed what they were talking about? Now, most likely happened, but you weren't focused on it at any level at all. Have you ever seen a certain type of car on the road? And over the coming days and weeks, you feel like you see that same model of car everywhere. You may not specifically want that car, but it has been brought into your attention. Now, there is plenty of bad things in this world. And to be honest, our brain at default is wired to prioritize and notice them. But there is a whole lot of good in this world too. We just probably don't notice it as much as humans because we are not conditioned that way. At the top of our spine, on the base of our brain, is a bundle of nerves called the reticular activating system. Now, this acts like the gatekeeper into what enters the human mind. Now, last time I saw the research, our brains take in something like 11 million bits of data per second. And by data, I mean information through our senses: sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. Now, I don't want you to confuse these with thoughts. We're talking information through our senses. For example, I know you weren't thinking about your feet touching the ground right now, but now that I've brought it to your attention, it's now entered your conscious mind. Now, that is data. Our mind is always searching for information to support our belief system. So, when you consciously search for the good, you will find it. And that is exactly what practicing gratitude does. It prompts you to focus on the amazing things, people, or experiences that you have in your life already. In doing so, it wires and fires new neural connections to the bliss center of the brain. It enhances dopamine and serotonin, which are the neurotransmitters responsible for happiness. It reduces fear and anxiety by regulating the stress hormones. And the practice of gratitude actually reshapes and restructures our brain by evoking positive thinking. Now, the practice of gratitude is something that I've been doing for a long time, and I've really brought many of my client athletes along for the ride. And with it has come a level of resilience, contentment, and calmness. And remember, your best performances have come in a state of calm. Secondly, you know this, I know this, but have you really thought about what I'm about to say? Social media doesn't always reflect reality, it's just the highlight reel. Ups and downs are part of the human experience. So don't let social media get you thinking that people have got this thing called life mastered. There is no day without night, sunshine without rain, and success without failure. You're not getting the full story. And even if you did, you'd probably unfollow them anyway. Now, when we're lying on a couch, doom scrolling through everyone else's achievements, it can really start to impact our mental health. So take that focus from what others are doing and shine that flashlight back on the incredible skill set, the accomplishments, and the strengths that you've built and achieved. Now, this leads me to number 3, focusing on your strengths. Now, this is an arrogance or an ego boost. This is a way of recognizing your own worth and the hard work that has got you where you are today. Add this exercise to your daily gratitude by writing down and recognizing 3 of your strengths. Why? Because one, focusing on your strengths increases positive emotions and feelings. 2, it gives you the greatest potential to achieve what you want to achieve. And 3, it enhances self confidence and inner belief. Now, this doesn't just have to be sports related too, it can be your strengths as a human being. Now, think about how other people closest to you would describe you or say about you. Number four is celebrate others, which is actually the direct opposite of comparing yourself to others. Don't feel like you're losing just because someone else is winning. I think it was Jim Rohn that said you are the average of the five people that you surround yourself with. That means if people around you are winning, it's just a matter of time before you break through and experience your own success. Number five, compete with only yourself. Focus on your goals and compare to how far you've come, where you were a year ago, or 2 or 3 or 5 years ago. I can guarantee that in the past year, you've learned and stretched and grown and improved and progressed and accomplished even the smallest of wins. Learn to compete with you instead of others because there is no tougher opponent in life than the person staring back at you in the mirror. And lastly, set yourself some boundaries regarding the use of social media. Unfollow accounts or people that don't inspire or uplift you. Remember that any criticism or bullying comments of you will only come from people that are worse off than you. And it's always a reflection of how they feel about themselves, more so than anything to do with you. Turn off your phone when you're with family and friends. Be completely present with them because our happiest memories are from the times that we are most present, just like our greatest sports performances. Set a timer and allow yourself to scroll for only a limited amount of time. Now, a lot of people rely on social media for that dopamine shot. True happiness comes from within. Externally, it's just the band-aid effect. And one more, when you feel the need to jump on social media, ask yourself why. Is it something that's going to help you? Or are you bored or seeking affirmation? Now, it may be the most convenient, but is there another way to feel better instead? Despite its downfall, social media has become an important part of sports and sports culture. It is a powerful tool for athletes to create a public image, and it serves several different important purposes. It can be super effective when used properly, and it has become almost compulsory since athletes need to have their brand visible online in order to catch the attention of sponsorships, scouts, and fans. Now, social media isn't going away anytime soon. And although followers might like to see it as a raw insight into athletes' lives, it isn't realistic. Athletes, especially aspiring professional athletes, need to approach social media from a professional angle. It's part of their personal brand and it can help them form some important relationships. Thank you once again for tuning into the Confident Athlete podcast. If you enjoyed this episode on navigating social media as an athlete, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button below. It truly does help us reach more athletes just like you who want to up their mental game and become the best athlete they can be. I appreciate you joining me and I look forward to continuing this journey of confidence and mental strength together. Stay tuned for our next episode on mindset behaviors in sport and which mindset will help you achieve your goals. Until then, keep putting the work in, keep believing in yourself, and never underestimate the power of a confident athlete.